Hey everybody, it's Trav. So what we're going to talk about is Cylon. Cylon's right here in front of us, and Cylon had a problem. We fixed it, and I'm here to help you if you have this problem. So here's what I was having. My bucket without hydraulics, without weight, was constantly falling. Didn't matter what I was doing, didn't matter anything I could try, the cylinder kept falling. And I rubbed Viagra on it, I did a whole bunch of other stuff, and everything pointed back to the cylinder. I went to the controller, played around with it. When I get the controller almost to full throw, it would curl back up. But the minute I let off, it would fall back to earth. Not to get too deep into it, but that's where I found out that it wasn't the controller. Everything went here. So I turned off hydraulics, grabbed the stethoscope, figured out where possibly the back end was, and I went ahead and I listened to see if I could hear any noises, and I did. When it was bleeding down, I could virtually almost follow it. That told me right then and there I had a cylinder problem. So from there, I went ahead, contacted AGT to see if I could get a replacement cylinder. Well, we know that sucks. So end of story on there. Went to the forums. Everybody was like, go ahead, take it to a shop, replace the seals. A lot of shops don't like dealing with this. They'd rather go ahead and upsell you due to the fact that those things are crap. So without panicking, I get on the internet, I start hunting. But before I get to hunting, I need to know some things. One, I need to know what my stroke was. I need to know the length. And I need to be able to make sure that I got the right attach points. Okay. To get your stroke, fully extended, fully retracted, the difference, that is your stroke. Okay. On top of that, measure your actual length, overall length of it completely closed so that you know where proximity, that you know what length your cylinder is going to be. From there, I went ahead and I measured the inside of the bearing on each end of the lugs and found that they were set up for 1 3/16 inch diameter. That's what the bolts or the pins that slide in were. So from there, I went ahead and I was like, okay, let's go shopping. Oh, and one other thing. My original, just like yours, some of them aren't. Some have banjo bolts. Some have where they've welded in the den 90 degrees. Everybody's got a little bit different configuration. This is primarily devoted to KTT, but a couple other ones have had where they have the banjo setups and stuff like that. So you can still do what I've done. It's just you got to be mindful of what you're going to do. So from there, I was like, okay, started shopping. Having a heck of a time, looking at Chinese, looking at European, looking at American, looking all over. Stumbled across the company, name will be below, and they were dead perfect. So this one actually is 2 inches longer body-wise, but it had a 12-inch throw. So I was like, okay, fine, we're going to run with that. So then at the same time, I had SAE 8 lugs up here, so I needed to go ahead and go, okay, those are SAE. Can I get dents? No, you can't. Some places you can, but you're going to be waiting days and months, who knows how long, because supply chain is still a disaster. So I needed to go ahead and go from dens to JICs to SAE 8s. Real simple. So I contacted the company, submitted my order. I said I needed 18-inch long hoses with den 18s on one end, JIC half-inch on the other end, and I turned around and got the JIC to SAE or SAE 8 fittings. That was easy. Turn around to put them in, you run them all the way down, then you back them where you want them, you tighten the gland nut down, kind of sits there and puts that packing into its spot. Don't overdo it. I did mine roughly about 50 foot-pounds, and we haven't had any leaks or any issues. From there, though, is where the fun begins. So, like I said, these lugs are 1 inches. 1 inches. They're 1 inch diameter. So from there, I needed to get 1 inch pins. Well, the problem is the horns for the diameter of the hole in there is 1 3/16. Well, what can you do? You can panic or you think outside the box. Do they make a brass bushing that is a 1 3/16 outer diameter with a 1-inch diameter. Yes, they did. Got them, took them into the machine shop, had them slice them for me because I don't have the lathe to do it. Boom, swedged them in, boom. Put the pins in, boom. From there, the nice thing is these come in with the Zerk fittings already attached. So the only thing you really have to make sure is that this is greased. You don't have to worry about these because these don't rotate. If you remember how the pin is, it's got a lock bolt in there. So these pins normally don't roll. So everything rolls right here off of this. As long as you make sure you got grease in there, you're fine. But let's go back to the problem. So there's a 1.5 inch gap. This is a 1.1 inch thickness. So that leaves us at 0.4. Well, what can you do? Well, you do want a little bit of slop. You don't want it fully tight. So what I ended up doing was the same washers that I'm using out here. I went ahead and just put one on each side, both in forward and back, and turned around and lined it up that way. There is a little bit of play, but you do want a little bit of play. It's kind of like when it's going in here. This really doesn't move a whole bunch. It moves up and down a little bit, but that's it. But that was it in a nutshell. So then I go ahead, make sure my lines were all connected, turned on hydraulics, well, turned on the machine, of course, and then turned around and did it a couple times. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that the first minute you do this, you're going to have a real kind of a slow response, but then it'll pick right up once it bleeds the air out of the system. But here's the key. Don't just gently go back and forth. Don't sit there and do that because you could cause another problem. You could jam air in there, which then could roll the seal. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm just telling you the way I did it. Okay, so from there, I have had this. I've ran it an hour with my bucket. Haven't had any problems. Other than that, everything will be in the description. The link of the company that I use will be in the description. If there's anything else that remotely that you guys think that you might need information on, feel free to go ahead and ask. I'll be happy to answer it. As usual, this is Trav. Y'all have a great and safe day, and thank you for watching.